The galaxy had known war before, but not like this. Not with something that moved faster than thought and killed without sound. For months, the Federation fleets had been breaking apart one after another, burning across cold skies that no longer had names. It started on the edge of human space, a distant colony world called Tanis 4. The outpost was small, mostly alien species and a few human workers. They thought they were far from danger. They were wrong. When the Predator ships came, they didn't send warnings or messages. They came like shadows, sharp, black, alive. Entire skies turned red that day. Civilians ran into bunkers that couldn't hold them. Soldiers fired weapons that did nothing. And somewhere among that chaos, deep inside a research facility, a team of scientists carried something small but alive, a cub. Not just any cub, but the offspring of the predators themselves. The scientists had captured it weeks before, calling it Subject 9. They thought it was young enough to study, maybe even train. They were sure it couldn't harm anyone. Now, locked in a containment pod, the creature screamed, high-pitched, furious, terrified. Its kind was burning the planet, and it could feel every death in its blood. Inside the base, alarms wailed. The walls shook. The lead scientist, Dr. Kyron Sol, slammed her palm on a glowing control panel. "Get that thing out of sight! If the predators find their young here, we're all dead." But one of her crew, a human engineer named Leon Ross, didn't move. He stood staring at the cub through the transparent barrier. The creature was small, half the size of a cat, with silver fur and deep amber eyes that pulsed like stars. It looked terrified, not monstrous. Leon had seen animals like this before, not alien, but Earth animals, trapped and afraid. He didn't see a weapon. He saw a child. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "it's scared." Dr. Sol didn't answer. The floor rumbled again. Dust fell from the ceiling. She turned to the others. "Evacuation pods, now, leave the specimen." But Leon didn't move. He kept staring as smoke began to fill the air. The cub slammed its small body against the glass, shrieking, claws scraping metal. Sparks flickered across the lights. One by one, the scientists ran for the escape tunnels. Within minutes, Leon was alone with the screaming cub. Outside, the world burned. Inside, the walls cracked. Leon grabbed his tool bag and broke the glass with a single strike. The cub leapt out, baring tiny teeth, but it didn't attack. It stumbled, weak, crying in a sound that didn't belong to any language. Leon crouched low, reaching out his hand. "Easy, easy, little one," he said softly. The cub hissed, backing up, trembling so hard it looked like it would break apart. And that's when the sound hit, the deep, earth-splitting roar of the Predator ships landing nearby. The ground shook. A blast wave blew through the walls. Leanne grabbed what was closest, a cardboard supply box that had fallen from a shelf. He didn't even think. He held it open and slid it across the floor toward the cub. The creature blinked, confused. The roaring outside grew louder. Flames licked through the doorway. Then slowly, the cub crawled inside the box and went silent. Leon lifted it carefully, pressing it against his chest as explosions thundered outside. He could feel the tiny heartbeat inside the box, fast and scared, but alive. As he ran down the corridor, something strange happened. The Predator ship stopped firing. The air grew still. A strange, low hum filled the base, almost like the sound of breathing. The cub made a small, soft sound. A purr. Leanne didn't know it yet, but by saving that cub, he'd just stopped a war that had been meant to end humanity forever. Far above the burning planet, a massive Predator cruiser turned in orbit. Its captain, a creature with eyes of molten gold, stared down at the surface. Its voice rumbled through the command deck. "Our young is alive. Cease fire!" For the first time in days, silence fell across the stars. Down below, Leon stumbled out of the wrecked facility, clutching the box close. He looked up at the empty, smoke-filled sky, breathing hard. He didn't know why everything had stopped. He didn't know what the cub really was. He only knew one thing. Something in that box had just changed the galaxy. Smoke still drifted across the broken surface of Tanis 4. The sky, once red with laser fire, now hung in a heavy silence that felt unreal. Leon Ross stood among the ruins, the cardboard box still pressed to his chest. Inside, the alien cub barely moved. Only the soft rhythm of its breathing proved it was alive. Around him, the base was gone. Twisted metal, shattered glass, and the stench of burned air told the story of a battle that had ended too fast to make sense. He took a step forward. Every sound seemed too loud now. The crunch of debris under his boots, the crackle of dying fires, the faint hum of energy fading from the air. He looked up, half expecting another wave of predator ships to descend. But they didn't. The sky was empty. Not even a scout drone flickered in orbit. "What did you do?" he whispered, glancing down at the box. The cub shifted slightly, its golden eyes blinking up at him through a small gap in the cardboard. For the first time, it didn't look wild. It looked curious. There was a strange intelligence in those eyes, something deeper than instinct. Leon felt a chill that wasn't fear. It was understanding. He moved toward the emergency shelter, a half-collapsed structure still standing at the edge of the compound. Inside, he found a broken console with minimal power. The comms were dead. No signal, no response from orbit. He was completely alone on a world that should have been vaporized. Leon sat on the floor, setting the box down gently. "Guess it's just you and me," he murmured. The cub tilted its head. It made a soft trill, almost like a question. Leon pulled a nutrient pack from his vest and tore it open. The creature sniffed, then crawled forward, tiny claws tapping metal. It hesitated for only a moment before eating. He smiled faintly. "You're not so scary when you're hungry." For hours, there was only silence and the sound of the cub breathing. But that calm felt wrong. Something bigger was happening beyond his sight. Somewhere up there, alien commanders were arguing, weapons stood idle, and the galaxy held its breath. Leon didn't know that the Predator's war fleet had stopped mid-attack. Their sensors had detected the life signature of their young, the very one humanity had captured, and that signal came from the ground where Leon stood. To them, it meant something sacred. The enemy hadn't killed their offspring. That changed everything. Far away, aboard the lead battleship, an alien general stared at the flickering hologram of the cub's heartbeat. "The humans protect it," the general said, his voice deep and rough. "They could have destroyed it." "They did not," another officer hissed. "It is manipulation, a trap, or mercy," the general replied quietly, a word your kind forgets. Back on the planet, Leon scavenged supplies from the wreckage. He found a working water purifier and a thermal blanket. He wrapped the box in it to keep the cub warm. Every few minutes, the creature would peek out, studying him like it was trying to decide whether to trust him. That night, the sky lit again, but not with fire. Dozens of lights shimmered in orbit, like stars moving in formation. A low vibration rippled through the ground. Leon stood staring upward. "Please don't start again," he muttered. But instead of another bombardment, a single shuttle broke through the clouds, slow and deliberate. It landed 100 meters away, silent as falling ash. The door opened with a hiss, and shapes moved inside, tall, armored, inhuman. Leon's instincts screamed at him to run, but the cub gave a soft cry. He looked down. The creature's eyes were fixed on the ship. It made a sound that was half whine, half song. The aliens stepped out, their forms towering and elegant, eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. They carried no weapons. One of them, the tallest, spoke in a voice like static and thunder. "Human," it said slowly, the translator lagging as it formed words. "You have our child," Leon froze. His throat went dry. He nodded once. "Yeah," he said quietly. "It's alive!" The leader's gaze dropped to the box. "You did not harm it?" "I wouldn't hurt a kid," Leon replied. "Even one with claws." A pause. Then, to his shock, the alien bowed slightly. "The war stops here," it said. And just like that, the galaxy shifted again. The Predator's fleet withdrew. Federation sensors caught the movement hours later, massive warships vanishing into the dark, leaving behind only silence. No one understood why. Commanders demanded reports, politicians argued. But the truth lay in the hands of one tired human and a frightened cub in a cardboard box. As dawn broke, the alien leader stepped closer. "We will take it," he said softly. "It will live among its kind." Leon hesitated. The cub looked at him, then at its kin. For a moment, it didn't move. Then, with slow, uncertain steps, it climbed out of the box. It pressed its small forehead against his hand before walking away. Leon felt something twist in his chest. Relief, sadness, maybe both. When the aliens lifted off, the ground shook one last time. The ship rose through the clouds, carrying the cub away to the stars. Leon stood alone in the silence that followed, the box still in his hands. He looked down at it and whispered, "Guess you didn't need it anymore." The cardboard was dented, burned, almost falling apart. But it had done its job. It had carried trust through fire, and far above, in the heart of a warship, a young predator cub slept peacefully for the first time. The universe, for once, was quiet. When the Federation finally received transmissions from Tanis IV, no one believed them at first. The automated sensors showed a battlefield frozen in silence. No radiation signatures, no pursuit fleets, no orbital fire. Just stillness. The war had been raging for months. Entire fleets lost, colonies erased. And now, one lone distress beacon blinked from the ruins of a research base that shouldn't even exist anymore. Commander Etta Voss, orbiting on the hospital ship Halcyon's Edge, leaned over the console and frowned. That can't be right. The Predators never leave survivors. The comms officer turned to her, voice shaking. "Ma'am, the signal is human." "Ident code, Engineer Leon Ross, civilian." Voss straightened. "A civilian?" She stared at the screen. "In the middle of a Predator attack?" The officer nodded. "And?" The enemy fleet pulled back right after his signal appeared. Silence filled the command deck. Even the hum of the ship felt hesitant. Voss had seen impossible things in war, but this was new. "Put me through to him," she ordered. Down on the planet, Leon sat against the scorched hull of a wrecked transport, staring at the sky. The cardboard box lay beside him, empty now, soft edges torn and blackened. He hadn't slept in 2 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the cub's eyes staring back at him. He could still hear its soft sound, the one it made before it left. The communicator on his wrist flickered to life. A faint voice cut through the static. "This is Commander Voss of the Halcyon's Edge. Identify yourself." Leon blinked. "I'm alive," he said simply. When the rescue team found him hours later, he was covered in soot and exhaustion, but otherwise unharmed. The medics surrounded him, checking vitals, asking questions. None of them noticed the small, scorched box he refused to let go of. On the ship, Leon was taken straight to debriefing. Generals, scientists, and translators filled the room. They demanded to know what happened, how a Predator fleet had vanished without firing another shot. Leon told them everything. The cub, the box, the moment the firing stopped, the ship landing, the alien commander's words. When he finished, the room was silent. Finally, one of the admirals leaned forward. "You expect us to believe that the most feared species in the quadrant called off a war because you showed kindness to one of their young?" Leon met his eyes. "You asked what happened." "That's what happened," the admiral scoffed. "This is absurd. They've destroyed 20 colonies. You think a cardboard box changed their minds?" Leon didn't answer. He just looked tired. But not everyone dismissed him. Dr. Kyron Soul, who had escaped the planet hours before the attack, entered the room quietly. She studied Leon for a long time. "What was it like?" she asked softly. He hesitated. It wasn't angry anymore. Just scared, like it didn't understand why everything was dying. Dr. Soul nodded. Maybe it didn't. Later that night, while the higher ranks argued and debated what to do next, Dr. Soul found Leon in the med bay. He sat by the viewport watching the stars. "They're afraid," she said. "Of what?" "Of what this means. If compassion can stop a war, then everything they believe about strength is wrong." Leon looked at the box beside him and gave a faint smile. "Yeah, I guess it is." 3 days later, the Federation received an encrypted message. It came from predator space, a place where no human signal had ever survived. The translation was rough but clear. The human who guarded our young is known. We will not strike those who protected life. Let this stand as truce. The cub remembers. When the message ended, no one spoke for a long time. Across the galaxy, the story spread faster than any fleet could travel. They called it the cardboard truce. News feeds turned it into legend. Soldiers whispered about the human who tamed a predator. Scientists studied the event like it was magic. And in the quiet corners of the galaxy, where war had once been constant, patrols began to stand down. For the first time in decades, trade ships crossed borders without fear. On frontier colonies, children played outside again. But Leanne couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. He'd seen something in the cub's eyes, something alive, ancient, maybe even wiser than its own kind. Dr. Soul approached him weeks later, her tone careful. The Federation wants to meet with the Predators. They've invited us both. Us? Leanne frowned. Why me? You're the one they'll talk to. Leon looked down at his hands. They were still rough, stained with dust and soot. He wasn't a soldier or a diplomat, just an engineer who'd held a scared creature in a box. Still, he nodded. All right, let's go meet them. The Halcyon's edge moved through hyperspace, its engines a whisper in the void. Ahead waited a place no human ship had ever gone. An alien homeworld where peace might be born from a single act of kindness. As the stars stretched and folded around the ship, Leon sat quietly, the old cardboard box resting beside him on the floor. He didn't know what waited out there. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The next time he saw that cub, it wouldn't be the same frightened creature he'd found, and maybe neither would he. The ship glided through silent space, every hum of its engines a reminder that no human had ever crossed this far into predator territory and returned to tell it. Leanne Ross sat by the observation window, watching distant stars shift to a cold violet hue. He hadn't slept in days. Even the quiet made him uneasy now. Too much peace after too much death felt wrong. Dr. Chiron Soul stood beside him, tablet in hand. We'll reach their system in 6 hours, she said. The planet's atmosphere reads stable. No weapon locks. No defense grid activation. Leon gave a hollow laugh. They're either friendly or they want to make sure we land before they eat us. She didn't smile. You still don't believe the truce? I believe what I saw, he said, turning to face her. That cub looked at me like it understood. But I also saw what its kind did to our colonies. Maybe both things are true. Karen didn't argue. She had seen too much to pretend things were simple. The predator homeworld appeared hours later, a vast planet of silver oceans and dark continents, glowing faintly with streaks of light that ran like veins across the surface. It looked alive. The ship descended slowly, guided by unseen forces, through thick clouds that shimmered like liquid metal. When they broke through the mist, an entire city stretched below, massive organic towers rising from the ground, pulsing with light. Everything seemed to breathe. Leon whispered, "They build like they grow their cities." Karen nodded. Living architecture. Biosymbiotic technology. Every wall here is alive. The landing platform opened like a blooming flower. Waiting for them were 6 predators, taller than any human, armor that gleamed like obsidian, eyes burning with gold light. Leon felt his throat tighten. No pressure, right? The leader stepped forward, its voice deep and calm. Human Leon Ross, you are known. He bowed slightly. Thanks, I guess. The alien tilted its head. You come in peace. That's the idea. They led him through vast halls filled with glowing patterns, carvings that moved when you looked too long. The air smelled of ozone and heat, and then they reached a chamber unlike the rest, a circle of light, soft and quiet, surrounded by hanging streams of energy like falling glass. In the center stood the cub, except it wasn't a cub anymore. It was larger now, nearly waist-high, its fur a deep silver blue, its eyes the same golden fire that had once glared at him through the glass. But the expression was different, calm, curious, almost gentle. Leanne froze. His heart kicked against his ribs. Hey, little one. he whispered. You've grown. The creature stepped forward, tail twitching slightly. Then, to everyone's shock, it spoke. Its voice was soft, musical, like wind through metal. You remember? Dr. Sol gasped quietly. It speaks your language? The alien leader bowed its head. It has learned your words since the day it was returned. It asked for you. Leon stared. It asked? Yes, the leader said. It remembers the box. It remembers peace. The cub, no, not a cub anymore, but something older, wiser, stepped close and placed one clawed hand on Leon's arm. Its touch was warm. You stopped the fire, it said. Leon swallowed hard. No, I just tried to help. Same thing, the creature said softly. The leader turned toward Dr. Sol. Your species seeks peace. So do we, but your commanders do not understand us. They see beasts. We see survival. You change that, Karen met Leon's eyes. They want an alliance. Leon exhaled. Me? I'm not a diplomat. You don't need to be, the alien leader replied. You did what none of your leaders could. You showed care without fear. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence was thick, not empty, alive with meaning. Then the creature stepped back and gestured toward a raised platform covered in glowing symbols. We wish to honor you, it said. Light filled the room. The walls rippled like water. Images formed in the air, memories, moments. Leon saw himself holding the cardboard box, fire raging around him. He saw the cub trembling inside it. And then thousands of Predator soldiers watching from orbit as their commander whispered one word. Ceasefire. The light dimmed. The leader's voice lowered. Our kind learns from memory. Today we remember mercy. Leon felt something shift deep inside. For the first time, the word human didn't feel small in a galaxy full of giants. When the ceremony ended, the leader approached him again. You may return home. But know this, the cub, now called Saren, will visit your world soon. The bond is not done, Dr. Sol frowned. Visit Earth? That could cause panic. The leader's eyes glowed brighter. Then prepare your people. The cub's voice will carry further than any weapon. Leon didn't fully understand what that meant. But as they left the hall, Saren followed him to the ramp. Before he could step onto the shuttle, the creature leaned close. Do not let them forget, it said. Forget what? Leon asked. The box, Saren replied. The moment mercy outweighed fear. Leon stood there as the ship lifted him back toward the sky, staring down at the glowing world below. He thought about how wars began, with fear, misunderstanding, pride, and how this one had stopped with something as small and fragile as a cardboard box. He wondered if humanity would ever understand what it really meant. The news spread faster than light. One message from Predator Space, we will visit your world. Just 6 words, but they hit Earth like a meteor. Every screen, every feed, every station replayed it on loop. Some called it history. Others called it the beginning of the end. In orbit above Luna Station, government officials yelled through encrypted channels, arguing about how to prepare. Military leaders demanded fleets on standby. Scientists called for open diplomacy. And the public? The public panicked. People filled shelters. Cities went on lockdown. Old fears, long buried, came roaring back. Leanne Ross watched it all from the observation deck of the Halcyon's edge, feeling sick. I thought peace would feel different, he muttered. Dr. Karen Sol stood beside him, arms crossed, her face pale. You expected gratitude. What you got is fear. Humans are good at that. They're terrified of what they don't understand. They always have been, she said quietly. Down on Earth, crowds held signs. Stay away, no aliens allowed. Protect humanity. Others protested for peace. The world was split down the middle, same as always. Leon tried to keep out of it. He'd done his part, hadn't he? He'd saved one life, stopped one war. That should have been enough. But everywhere he went, cameras followed. Reporters shouted questions. What did they look like? Did they threaten you? Are they coming to invade? He didn't answer any of them. How could he explain that the creature everyone feared had been nothing more than a scared child? Then one morning, before dawn, everything changed again. A signal appeared on the Deep Space Network, massive, clear, undeniable. A ship was coming. Not a fleet, just one vessel. Smooth, black, curved like bone and light. It wasn't an invasion. It was a visit. "They're here," Karen whispered as the sensors lit up. The ship slowed as it reached Earth orbit, staying far enough to avoid panic. No weapons powered. No transmissions, just a steady heartbeat signal. The same rhythm the Cub, Saren, had shown before. Commanders argued for hours. Should they respond? Should they fire? Should they hide? Leon sat in the control room, silent, until finally he said, "They won't talk to you. They'll talk to me. No one liked that idea." But everyone knew he was right. A shuttle took him up, a small vessel carrying a single man, a translator unit, and a world's worth of fear. As he crossed the threshold into the alien ship, he felt the temperature drop. The walls shimmered like liquid metal, pulsing faintly with light. And then Saren appeared. The alien's presence filled the chamber, sleek and elegant, the same golden eyes, but wiser now. Leanne could feel its mind before it spoke. "You remember," Saren said softly. Leon exhaled. "How could I forget?" The alien tilted its head. "Your kind fears what it cannot name. They do not understand peace without power." "Maybe we never learned how," Leon admitted. "We fight everything we don't control." Saren stepped closer. "Then learn again." It extended a small silver object, a perfect replica of the cardboard box, made from smooth, glowing metal. "This is our memory," it said, "a symbol of the moment when mercy stopped war. We bring it not to rule, but to remind." Leon stared at it. "They won't understand." "They will," Saren said, "if you make them listen." Back on Earth, the broadcast began. Every channel went silent as Leon's voice echoed across the planet. He stood beside the alien, holding the shining box. Behind him, the stars shimmered through the viewport. "This," he said, lifting it for the cameras, "is what saved us. Not weapons, not armies. Just one act of kindness. One moment where a human chose compassion over fear." The feed cut between the ship and cities below, crowds frozen, soldiers staring at screens, children whispering to parents. "We think war makes us strong," Leon continued. "But maybe strength is being kind when it costs you everything." Saren spoke next, its voice translated into every language at once. "The box is simple, but simple things hold power. In our world, we teach our young that peace begins when one being chooses to protect another. This human did so and our war ended. Remember that." For a moment, there was no sound anywhere. Then, something strange happened. The angry crowds grew quiet. The soldiers lowered their rifles. People cried without knowing why. It wasn't understanding yet, but it was a start. Hours later, as the alien ship left orbit, Leon stood watching the stars again. "You think it worked?" he asked softly. Dr. Soul smiled faintly. "I think they'll remember, and maybe that's enough." But Leon wasn't sure. Humans had short memories. Fear always found its way back. Still, somewhere deep down, hope flickered, small, fragile, and human. He looked at the replica box in his hands and whispered, "Guess it's your turn to save us again." Outside, the stars shimmered brighter as if listening. Months passed. The stars above Earth seemed calmer now, as if the galaxy itself had exhaled. The Predator fleet never returned to wage war again. The cardboard truce, as people called it, turned into stories, then speeches, then textbooks. Politicians quoted Leon Ross in public. Children built tiny replicas of the shining box out of paper. Everyone said they remembered. But Leon wasn't sure they understood. He'd left the spotlight months ago. Fame had worn him out faster than fear ever had. Now he lived in a small research dome on Luna's dark side, alone with silence and dust. He didn't mind. The box sat on his workbench, a gift from Saren, still glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Some nights he would stare at it for hours. The way it caught the light. The way it seemed to breathe. He'd whisper to himself, "You'd laugh if you saw them now, kid. They made statues of us." Dr. Chiron Soul visited him sometimes, bringing reports from Earth. "The peace holds," she said one morning. Trade with the predators has begun. Medical exchanges, shared technology. It's working, Leon. He nodded. Until someone forgets why, she sighed. You think too darkly. I think too honestly. They sat together in silence for a while. Beyond the glass, Earth glowed like a blue lantern. For a brief moment, it looked peaceful. Then the comm beacon on the wall blinked red. Karen frowned. That's a restricted frequency. Leon activated it. The voice that filled the room made his heart freeze. Human Ross, it said softly. You are called. It was Saren. Leon's pulse quickened. Saren, what's wrong? There is unrest among your kind and mine. Some wish to erase the truce. They call it weakness. Chiron looked at him sharply. Rebellion? Saren's voice deepened. Yes, the old soldiers on both sides rise again. They do not remember the box. Leon's jaw tightened. Where? Outpost Delta 7, a border world. Humans are sending troops. My kind sends ships. They believe the truce was a lie. He closed his eyes. Then I'll remind them. Hours later, Leon was back in space. The Halcyon's edge cut through the black toward the disputed world. Chiron came with him despite orders to stay behind. You're insane, she muttered. Probably, he said. But it worked once. Delta 7 loomed ahead, a gray, broken planet surrounded by two fleets staring each other down. Predator warships, sleek and alive, human cruisers, cold and bristling with weapons. One wrong move, and the peace that had cost billions of lives would shatter. Leon didn't wait for permission. He launched a small shuttle straight through the neutral zone, broadcasting his ID to both sides. Commanders shouted through comms, demanding he turn back. He ignored them all. When he reached the planet's surface, he stepped out alone. Dust swirled around him, colored red by the twin suns above. He placed the glowing box on a rock and activated the wideband transmitter. This is Leon Ross. His voice echoed across both fleets. You all know my name. You've read the stories. You've built the monuments. But you forgot what they meant. He paused, staring up at the sky where ships hovered like silent gods. You call mercy weakness. I call it survival. Because the moment we lose compassion, we go back to fire. You think power keeps you safe? It doesn't. It only keeps you scared. Silence. Then another voice broke through, the harsh growl of a predator commander. Your words will not stop war. Leon smiled faintly. They did once. Then another sound filled the air, a hum, low and beautiful. The sky shimmered as Saren's ship descended, wings of light folding around it. When the ramp opened, the alien stepped out, taller now, almost regal. The two stood side by side, human and predator, dust swirling around their feet. Saren lifted its hand toward the fleets above. Listen, it said, its voice carrying across every frequency, translated into every language. Once, this human showed mercy to a cub that would have torn him apart. He held out a box, not a blade. He protected life. That choice ended a war. You live because of that choice. Do not dishonor it. For a moment, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath again. Then, one by one, the ships began to power down. Lights dimmed, engines cooled. Across both sides, soldiers and captains lowered their weapons. Chiron whispered, He did it again. Leon didn't answer. He just looked at the box. Its light pulsed stronger now, brighter, as if alive. Saren turned to him. The galaxy needed to remember. You reminded it. Leon nodded. Guess we both did. The alien smiled, an expression that looked almost human now. Perhaps mercy is contagious, he chuckled. Let's hope it spreads faster than war. As the fleets dispersed and the sky cleared, Leon looked at the glowing box one last time. It had carried fear, then peace, then hope. And now maybe it carried a future. He picked it up and whispered, "Time to rest, old friend." Far above, stars flickered like watching eyes. And for the first time in living memory, the galaxy was quiet. Not from fear, but from understanding. Because one human had reminded them all what strength really was.